What's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy though, back again with another reaction. We got a secret base video. The bad boy Pistons last second chance at a repeat championship needs a deep rewind. Y'all know secret base got the best, history, NBA history, hockey, NFL. I think they got some baseball. I gotta check out some baseball stuff too. But they got the beef history. They got all type of stuff, but we gotta check this one out. But before we do, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for daily bangers, man. Let's go.
It's June 14th, 1990. We're in Portland, Oregon for Game 5 of the NBA Finals between the Detroit Pistons and the Portland Trail Blazers. There's 11 seconds left, and the score is tied at 90. The Blazers, down 3-1, are doing everything they can to keep these finals going. But the Pistons can end it all right here. You might remember these Pistons as the head-crunching bad boys who took home a championship in '89. But you might not remember that some people put an asterisk on Detroit's first ever title, and that the Pistons' long fight for dignity and respect was still going on at this very moment.
Hey, now
Let's rewind. Who's Detroit going to go with as they try to put a definitive stamp of greatness on their name? Kind of looks like they're going ISO Isiah Thomas. Not a bad move. The guy has been the leader of this team for the better part of a decade, helping the Pistons rise from the grave. In 1980, Detroit was the worst team in the league. In '81, they were the second worst team in the league because they won 6 more games than an expansion team. They were so desperate for a fan base, they offered free tickets to people who paid parking violations on time. Then, they drafted Isiah Thomas with hopes that the smiling, can't-miss 20-year-old could save the franchise. The move was heralded, and then they did another thing right. Halfway through the season, they traded for tough guy, rebounder extraordinaire Bill Laimbeer. Detroit won 39 games in the new guy's first season, which isn't a lot, but it's more than the previous 2 seasons combined. The real breakout wasn't until 1984 when new coach Chuck Daly hit the scene. He gave Isiah more freedom, and Detroit leaned on fast breaks. Led by Thomas and Laimbeer, they finished 4th in the East, 2nd in the Central Division, and developed the motto, "Let it be known." As in, let it be known, the Pistons are good now, stop laughing at us. In their first postseason in 7 years, the Pistons nearly advanced to the second round, taking the Knicks to do-or-die Game 5, where they lost in overtime by 4 points. The mood in the locker room was sad, of course, but also hopeful. The Detroit Pistons had arrived, and the future looked bright. So, we know they won the title in '89, but that's a long gap between the future looking bright in '84 and getting to hold the bright, shiny trophy in '89. So, what happened? Years of heartbreak.
Was it Isiah Thomas
Losing
injured?
in close games came to define the Pistons. In '86, they lost the first round to the Hawks in Game 4 in double overtime by just 1 point. In '87, they tied up the Eastern Conference Finals with the Celtics 2 games apiece. And Game 5 looked alright. With 5 seconds left, the Pistons had a 1-point lead in the ball. What could go wrong? Oh my god, I'm so sorry I asked.
Oh no, you gotta play that clip. You gotta play that clip. That's a legendary clip right there.
I asked. Pistons lose by 1. They did manage to force a Game 7, where 3 measly points ended their season. Pistons couldn't buy a break. In '88, Detroit got an Eastern Conference Finals rematch with the Celtics, and this time, with Isiah Thomas having the best playoffs of his career, the Pistons prevailed. They made their first finals ever as the Detroit Pistons. They had made a couple in the 1950s as the Fort Wayne Pistons. Facing the reigning champion Lakers, they went up 3-2. Not bad at all. In Game 6, Thomas severely sprained his ankle in the third quarter, but played on and finished with 43 points. But without the win. Detroit lost by 1. And yeah, the Pistons weren't everyone's favorite team with a reputation for playing kind of dirty.
Kind of.
If you don't feel bad for them at this point, well, maybe Game 7 will capture your sympathies. Despite hobbled Thomas playing only 28 minutes, Detroit was down just 3 in the final 60 seconds. It was doable. John Sally got a block. On the resulting fast break, wait, no, Dennis Rodman's not a shooter. That shot was a crucial mistake, as we can infer from watching Chuck Daly watch Rodman's shot.
Uh-huh.
And for those who can't read lips,
Dennis Rodman, who the fuck you think you are, buddy?
He definitely went Christ there at the end. The Pistons lost the '88 NBA Finals by 3 points. So tonight, 2 years later, I think the Blazers can be pretty confident Rodman isn't taking the final shot. Don't get me wrong, Dennis Rodman's good and valuable to this team. In fact, his rise created a domino effect on the Pistons roster. In '86, the Pistons drafted Rodman in the second round as a project player. Could go bad, could go good, not a huge risk to the team either way. Rodman was pretty determined to make it go good, and over the years he became a formidable defender and rebounder. He also developed a reputation for play so aggressive his opponents predicted he'd one day get very hurt. But until then, it was all Rodman on the rise. In '89, his playing time off the bench increased so much it pissed off teammate Adrian Dantley, who had to sit to make more room for Rodman. Dantley, the leading scorer in '88, was traded in February of '89 for Mark Aguirre. The move was seen as risky, but Detroit was just fine. Joe Dumars stepped up and developed into the team's best player. Which is saying something, because the team was deep.
Oh my God, bruh. Just thinking about all the good young players right now and just dropping them in the league back in the day and telling them, hey man, Joe Dumars is guarding you. Imagine telling Zach LaVine Joe Dumars is guarding him, bro. Joe Dumars is a bucket. I like Joe Dumars. But tell Zach LaVine, who is 6'7", freakishly stupid bounce, dumb long arms, that a 6'2" T-Rex is gonna guard you, bro. Oh man.
They finished first in the East,
man,
the best
it's a
record
wrap.
in the league, and were predicted to win it all. They swept the first 2 rounds, and then ran into a flying, weaving, dominating obstacle called Michael Jordan. Detroit went down 2-1 against the Bulls, putting their best season.
They ain't stressed him out yet. He got a little stubble in there. They ain't stressed him out all the way yet. Wait till he gets stressed out.
Detroit went down 2-1 against the Bulls, putting their best season, their expected title, in jeopardy. So, they broke out the Jordan rules, a strategy they'd employed in the past in which they were physical with Jordan. There are differing reports on just how physical.
What? Every time he goes to the effing bucket, put him in the ground. Okay. They do this to Curry, except knocking him on the ground.
How physical. They also doubled or tripled him, forcing him to facilitate rather than score. And it worked. They won Game 4, holding Jordan to 5 of 15 shooting. He only had 2 field goals in the last 41 minutes of the game. A stat so
Wait, what?
2 field goals in the last 41 minutes.
You telling me y'all Lord and Savior only shot the ball twice in 40 minutes? That's not MJ. Bruh. MJ fans. MJ shot the ball twice in 40 minutes? He's so aggressive. He'll never go out like any of these NBA players nowadays.
To the game.
I know I got somebody butthurt right now.
His primary defender couldn't even believe
They
it.
don't get satire and humor. You know what I'm saying?
Detroit
it's okay,
finished
old
off the
heads.
Bulls in 6 games and headed for the '89 finals, where they swept the 2-time reigning champion Lakers. Sure, it probably helped that Byron Scott was injured and didn't play all series, and also Magic Johnson pulled his hamstring in Game 2, only played 5 minutes in Game 3 and 0 minutes in Game 4, but that's not what we're focusing on right now.
Don't care.
The Pistons finally got their ring. That's what we're focusing on. Joe Dumars, on an incredible scoring streak all series, was Finals MVP.
27 and
Dumars is an
58%.
offensive threat who'd likely do well with the ball here. He's one of the reasons the Pistons turned it around this season. You heard me right, the reigning champs needed to turn it around this year. The Pistons started out barely beating expansion teams and losing to second-year teams. In mid-December, they were just 13-10 and nobody was having any fun. Until late January, when the Pistons went on a 13-game win streak, then lost one, then went on a 12-game win streak. As March wound down, Detroit had the best record in the league and was called a potential dynasty. How'd they go from 13-10 to 51-15? Couple of ways. Dumars found consistency, and Dennis Rodman was inserted into the starting lineup. His defense was key to the Pistons' resurgence. In fact, he won Defensive Player of the Year. Detroit's defense as a whole stepped up, and they finished with the fewest allowed points in the league. They swept the first round of the playoffs, took out New York in 5 games, then met with MJ again. The Bulls took Detroit to 7 games. But in do-or-die Game 7, Scottie Pippen had a migraine and was ineffective. Plus, the Bad Boys' defense proved too much for the Bulls, who shot just 31% from the field. The Pistons were back in the finals, looking to capture their second title and prove last year wasn't just some fluke because Magic was hurt. To do that, they had to beat the Portland Trail Blazers. Led by a starting 5 who can all produce, Portland is a physical, defense-oriented, rebounding team so similar to the Pistons, they were called Pistons West. And while you might look at Detroit's 3-1 series lead and think they were just totally dominating, that wasn't the case. In classic Pistons style,
they was winning by, 3
Detroit
points.
won Game 1 by just 6 points when the Blazers lost their composure in the final moments. The Blazers won Game 2 in overtime by 1 point. Game 3, Detroit decided they were tired of close games. They played a 3-guard offense that the Blazers couldn't stop. Joe Dumars had 33 points.
33 points.
The celebration, however, was short-lived. After the game, Dumars learned that his father, who had been ill, passed away 90 minutes before the game began.
Damn!
Showing deep reserves of heart and strength, Dumars played in Game 4. That 3-guard combo was hot, yet Detroit just barely escaped with a 3-point win when Danny Young's game-tying 3 at the buzzer was ruled tenths of seconds too late. So while the Pistons are up 3-1, the Blazers are hanging with them and definitely still pose a threat, especially since Joe Dumars is off tonight. Maybe Detroit doesn't want to go with Dumars for their potential finals-winning play. But what about that 3rd guard I keep alluding to?
Vinnie Johnson?
That's Vinnie Johnson. The Pistons traded for Vinnie in '82 to play backup guard, even though he was perhaps a bit out of shape. Coming off the bench as the Pistons fought through the ranks of the league, Johnson developed into a player good enough to be an all-star starter on a different team, one that doesn't have Isiah Thomas and Joe Dumars. But Johnson doesn't mind being a reserve in Detroit. He's a free agent after this season, but wants to stay put. Perhaps he's willing to be a backup because, rings. Or perhaps because Chuck Daly has created a perfect environment for a sub like Vinnie Johnson. On Daly's team, if you got hot, you stayed in the game and you got the ball. And Vinnie would get so hot so quickly, they called him the microwave. He earned the nickname in the '85 playoffs. Johnson scored 22 points in the 4th quarter to give the Pistons a come-from-behind 3-point win over the Celtics. Daly believed it only took 1 shot for Vinnie to get going. Problem was, sometimes he went ice cold. He had a little trouble this postseason. Tonight, he went 0 for 3 in the first 3 quarters, with 1 point to his name because he made 1 of 2 foul shots. Actually, other than Isiah Thomas, many of the Pistons were having a rough night offensively. They started the 4th down just 4 points. With under 9 minutes to play, that deficit grew to 7, at which point Johnson remembered his nickname. He hit 3 shots in a row in under a minute. Then he hit a couple free throws, and the Pistons snuck ahead by 1 point with 6:30 left, which is kind of a lot of time. And also, Thomas had to leave the game with a bloody nose. In other words, The Pistons' slim lead did not last. The Blazers won on a 14-6 run and were up 90-83 with 2 minutes to go. But the microwave still had some residual heat going. Fouled on a mid-range jumper, he got the and one. Next possession, he scored off a drive with a neat little pull-up. And with just over 30 seconds left, Isiah Thomas reminded everyone he is also very clutch. That Detroit defense forced Terry Porter to throw it away. And here we are. Tie game, 11 seconds left, Detroit ball, 2 hot hands. The Detroit Pistons started the decade with a record of 16-66. Then found a second life that consisted of seeing glory, reaching out for it, and having it yanked away from them while the fates said, "Just kidding." And while they finally did capture that glory, there were doubters. How can Detroit silence them? By repeating tonight and becoming only the 3rd franchise to win back-to-back titles. A feat of true dominance. Welcome to A Moment in History.
That way, if Thomas beats this man, someone will have to pick him up. There's the pick out. Vinnie Johnson with 1 second to go. His shot is good.
Wow.
Actually, Blazers had time to catch and shoot, so let's just check.
0.7 of a second. There's the shot.
Oh.
Back to back.
That was woo-wee. That's luck right there. That's the end. Jesus Christ, that was a W video. Shout out to Secret Base for the banger, man. That's Secret Base got all the bangers, man. I can just cry right now, bro. But YouTube, we just seen Isiah Thomas and the Detroit Pistons break down to the 1980s and the 1990 decade breakdown of how the Pistons was, you know what I'm saying, going about that decade. It was a great video, man. But I'm out of here. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Comment other videos I should watch next. And I'll catch you on the flip.